Giving all praises, honor, and glory to our power, Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shah, Bahasham, Rachak, Wadash, double honors to the apostles, the bishops, and the elders of Great Millstone. Peace and blessings to the whole elect of the tabernacles of David, scattered throughout the four corners of the earth, wherever you may be. Shalom, Yeshua, Shalom. All right, we'll get to a brief lesson here. Just jump right into it. The title of the lesson was Has the Lord Cast Off His People? So we're going to start in Romans chapter 11, verse 17. All right. So it says, and if some of the branches be broken off, and thou, being a wild olive tree, wert grafted in among them, and with them partakest of the root and fatness of the olive tree. And I want to get grafted in, but also I'm going to pull up a wild olive tree. See what pops up here. Okay, wild olive tree. So it says, of or belongeth to the oleaster or wild olive. The oleaster, wild olive tree. And when the oleaster is lesser than an olive tree, let me pull this up for you. It's like an olive tree, but of lesser status or stature, or however the case. Let's see if we can punch this real quick. It says a Eurasian shrub or small tree cultivated as an ornamental. Look, check this out. All that's the Russian olive, wild olive. You see, belongs to the genus. Okay, so on and so forth. We don't really need that. Let's see what it says here. Signifying a plant like an olive, but less valuable. You see, there's a reason why it has that word there in the definition. Less than the olive tree we were supposed to be. Okay, a plant like an olive, but less valuable, may be applied to feral olive trees that have been allowed to run wild. The wild olive tree. That's all we need. The oleaster, the wild olive. That is all we need. Let's go back. See? So as we move, it says, but were grafted in among them. Who is he talking to? Paul's talking to Gentiles, other Israelites, in other words. So grafted in, that word there is incontrizo. It says to cut into for the sake of inserting a scion. And when you get the word scion, it says a young shoot or twig of a plant, especially one cutting for grafting or rooting. And we're talking about what? The oleaster. Okay? The wild olive tree. To be grafted back into that of the original olive tree. And we're talking about Israelites. So you're not getting lost. Then it goes on to say a descendant of a notable family, which this shows you that this is a family thing, a family lineage of who? Israelites. So when you're dealing with those Jews or Judea and those Gentiles talking about salvation and the wild olive tree and being called back in and so on and so forth, those were also other Israelites. Let's go back. Okay. It says, and if some of the branches be broken off, all right, those that became the wild olive trees of the uncircumcision, which the history there is in Maccabees, the first chapter, First Maccabees, chapter 1, the descendants of those that forsook the Holy Covenant. And the Jews of the Judea of the circumcision were the descendants of those that stuck to the covenant. Okay, simply said. Being a wild olive tree, wert grafted in among them, and with them partakest of the root and fatness of the olive tree. So what else does it mention this? Let's go to Jeremiah chapter 2. And let's start at verse 19. It says, thine own wickedness shall correct thee, and thy backslidings shall reprove thee. Know therefore and see that it is an evil thing and bitter, that thou hast forsaken Yahweh thy power, and that my fear is not in thee, said Yahweh, power of hosts. And that was the main thing, man. All the sins amongst the Israelites that were wicked and against the Lord, the main thing was idol worship. You fell away from worshiping the Most High Power. For of old time I have broken thy yoke and burst thy bands, and thou says, I will not transgress, which is going into, as we always mention, so important, Deuteronomy 4 and Exodus 24, where we said that these things we will all do. And we agreed, and we entered into a blood covenant. And it says, and burst thy bonds, right, from the yoke, which was under the Egyptians. I will not transgress, is what we said. When upon every high hill and under every green tree thou wanderest, playing the harlot. Okay? Says the same thing in the next chapter, in Jeremiah chapter 3. Calling you in. It says the same thing in Jeremiah chapter 3, man. So everywhere we went, okay, even when we were amongst ourselves, the Israelites they secretly worshiped things like Moloch and so on and so forth. Okay, where the scriptures talk about the god of your star. It says Moloch and the god of your star. So the star of your god Molech. Okay, and chewing, however you pronounce it, right? What people equate to it as the Star of David, but no, that goes back to worship of a deity. Okay. But anyways, secretly we will worship these things, try to worship the Most High, and then secretly worship these things. Or some will go just totally off amongst these heathen nations and build up groves and, altars surrounded by trees, which is what a grove is, an altar of brick surrounded, or stone surrounded by trees. That's a grove, okay? It's a hidden place where you do idol worship. The churches are those groves today. We will always go off amongst these nations and even amongst ourselves. For of old time I have broken thy yoke and burst thy bands, and thou saidst, I will not transgress, when upon every high hill and under every green tree thou wanderest, playing the harlot. Yet I planted thee a noble vine. Matter of fact, let's get the word harlot there. Why does he mention a harlot? The word is anah. It says to commit fornication, be a harlot, play the harlot. And the key thing here, because I was about to say it, a spiritual thing, but to be unfaithful to the Most High. You see? That's the spiritual fornication we committed. Spiritual harlots, man. Yet I planted thee a noble vine. What's the noble vine? That olive tree we mentioned about before. A right seed and upright people by giving us the law. See? The word there is Sirach. It says choice species of vine, choice grapes. Right? The grape of the cluster. There's other words here. Let me see what they say. That one says the same thing, Sirach, but it says sorrel, reddish, tawny, bay, tawny. You know what the word tawny goes into? Same word, different meaning. To his whistle pipe. To his, because say we're not going to go through all these words there, because that was another one in the first one that we went to. We got what we needed. So let's keep going. It says, yet I have planted thee a noble vine, wholly a right seed, meaning all of the 12 tribes of Israel were all righteous at one point when we came out of Egypt. But then they started to mumble and grumble and complain and slowly turn against Moses, which slowly turned them against the Lord. And those were destroyed. And then even later on, there were more that died off because not everybody went into the promised lands. You see? He says, I will leave some of these nations to try you. I think it's something along those lines, man. But anyways, let's keep going because that's besides the point that we want to make here. And this should be brief. We're just going to hit, these straight points here. It says, how did I turn into the degenerate plants of a strange vine unto me? Let's get degenerate before we get strange vine. And this is very important. That word there, sawar. Well, sawar. Says degenerate. Let's go into this word degenerate, which we've done before. But this is a different lesson. Maybe there's someone new listening. All right, degenerate. It says having lost the physical, mental, or moral qualities considered normal and desirable, showing evidence of a decline. And what's the main thing that takes us into this moral and decline? Idol worship, falling away from the Lord and worshiping idols and following after their ways and the nation of people amongst the people who worship those idols. You see, basically being Hellenized. Okay, that's the main thing that takes us into this downward spiral of the Israelite civilization. It also says lacking some property, order, which yeah, our people have zero order, man. Even those that claim to be in the truth lack order because they want the spotlight. Or distinctness of structure previously, I didn't mean to hit that, previously or usually present. You see? Get out of my house, you degenerate. That's what the Lord did, though. Get out of my house, you degenerate. Okay? He put the wife out the house. Can't make that up, man. He says an immoral or corrupt person decline or deteriorate physically, mentally, or morally. And you can keep just going with this topic, but that's just the one word, degenerate. So there's a reason why the Lord used the word as he used it through the mouth of Jeremiah the prophet. How then art thou turned into the degenerate plant of a strange vine unto me? Let's get the word strange. The word there is nakaria. Yeah, nakaria. It says foreign, alien. Okay, foreign woman, hardly. That's actually dealing with an actual woman. But if you want to deal with it on a spiritual level, it's the Israelites. But that's an actual woman there. Okay, unknown, unfamiliar. You see, which is nakar, stranger. We became unknown to the Lord. Calamity, disaster, misfortune. You see, we became unknown to the Lord. That's why he put us off as a people. When you go into Hosea 1, you will be called not my people. And when you, as a matter of fact, because I hadn't planned on going to those verses, but let's do this. Because those scriptures there actually lead back to Moses, okay? And I want to say this in Deuteronomy 32. We're going to pull it up, though. Let me read this first. It says, now when she had weaned Lo-Ruhamah, she conceived and bare a son. Then said God, the Most High, call his name Lo-Ami, for ye are not my people, and I would not be your power. Yet the number of the children of Israel shall be as the sand of the sea, which cannot be measured. No. So this is telling you that the Lord has not put off his people. Okay? And it tells you the same thing in Jeremiah 31. If the sun and the moon and the stars are gone, I'll put away my people. If the earth and the ocean, the seafloor, and all these things can be searched out fully, I will put away my people. But that's not so. So that means the Lord has not cast off his people fully. And here's another version of it. Yet the number of the children of Israel shall be as the sand of the sea, which cannot be measured nor numbered. And it shall come to pass that in the place where it was said unto them, ye are not my people, there shall be said unto them, ye are the sons of the living power. And where are these places? All over the earth, where we've been scattered. And the heathen nations have joined in on calling us not the people of the Lord. You see? So let's pull this up in Deuteronomy 32. See if I can find what I'm looking for. Man, we could have started up above though. Shoot. Ooh. Man, we gotta go up above. Hold on. Deuteronomy 32:15. But Jeshurun, which means upright one, Yasharon in the Hebrew, waxed fat and kicked. Talking about the Israelites. Thou art waxen fat, thou art grown thick, thou art covered with fatness. Going into all the things that the Lord gave to us. Okay, all the substance and everything, all the good things that he was doing for us. And we got a little bit too comfortable and started to think, and we basically got beside ourselves, as if we didn't need the Most High. Then he forsook the Most High, see, which made him, and lightly esteemed the rock of his salvation. Like it wasn't the Lord that delivered us out of Egypt and all those different plagues that led up to the deliverance from Egypt. You see, the exodus out of Egypt. And in the wilderness, all the things he did for us, like it wasn't the Most High. They provoked him to jealousy with strange gods. You see how it lines up? With abominations provoked they him to anger. Even Paul says, that you were Gentiles carried away to these strange idols. Were Gentiles. You were called Gentiles. That goes into the history. They sacrifice unto devils not to the Most High, to gods whom they knew not, to new gods that came newly up, whom your fathers feared not. It says, of the rock that begat thee, thou art unmindful, and hast forgotten the Most High that formed thee. Before, like it says in Jeremiah, before I formed thee in the belly, okay, before I knew thee, something like that. Just for paraphrase, I can forget exactly how it's worded, okay. It says, and when Yahweh saw it, he abhorred them, okay. He turned away from us, and he stayed away from, like, nah, this whore gotta go. I will put this harlot out my house, okay. It says he abhorred them because of the provoking of his sons and of his daughters. And he said, I will hide my face from them. I will see what their end shall be, for they are a very froward generation, children in whom is no faith. You see? Because now when you jump back over to the New Testament time period, of the Jews of Judea, of the circumcision, had no faith in where it counts the most, in Yahushua as being the Lord and Savior. But the Gentiles did, those other Israelites did, the uncircumcision, they had faith in Yahushua. You see? That was a separation there. We're probably going to pull it up. It says, they have moved me to jealousy with that which is not the Most High. They have provoked me to anger with their vanities, which the Israelites also had idol worship, stooped in angels. Okay, tells you that in actually I believe it's in Deuteronomy 4, not to worship the angels of heaven or any likeness of this thing and that thing. And when you get to, I believe it was the letter Paul wrote to the Colossians, we always point that out, where they were going into angel worship, Gnosticism, and all these things. It says, and I will move them to jealousy with those which are not a people. I will provoke them to anger with a foolish nation. And that's going into the Israelites that were being called Gentiles, because they weren't doing any of the laws or the customs or the ways of the Israelites, because of the history that they grew up being taught. All right. It says nation, people, okay, of descendants of Abraham, but it says of Israel. Okay. Of Israel. That's the key thing there, because we're talking about Israelites, with a foolish nation of Israel, of other Israelites that were being called Gentiles by other Israelites. You see, you have the circumcision and the uncircumcision. The uncircumcision were doing whatever, but they had faith in Yahushua when they heard the word of him. And the circumcision were keeping the laws, okay, and the customs, and they were the ones under those wicked Pharisees. But their problem was they didn't have faith in Yahushua. You see? Yeah, it wasn't all of them. Just making the point, a distinction, okay? Because you, of course, have the faithful remnant amongst both the circumcision and the uncircumcision. That's just how you have non-believers of both parties, okay? But you see what this goes back to, and this is the history that they will bring it up in the New Testament. All right. So let me go back over here. Let me go back to the Jeremiah real quick. Verse 21 says, yet I have planted thee a noble vine, wholly a right seed. How then art thou turned into the degenerate plant of a strange vine unto me? Okay, and that vine is important, because where it mentions that vine it is in Yahushua. That where there's gapan, vine, tree. Once again, what does it say? Of Israel. You see? The strange vine are Israelites that are being grafted in the New Testament, not heathen nations. All right, that oleaster, a lesser olive, a degenerate olive. You see? So let's go over here. Let's go Psalms 53. Psalms 53:3. Every one of them is gone back. They are altogether become filthy. There is none that doeth good, no, not one. You see? Let's read a couple more. It says, have the workers of iniquity no knowledge, who eat up my people as they eat bread? They have not called upon the Most High. There were they in great fear, where no fear was, for the Most High have what? Scattered the bones of him that encampeth against thee. Thou hast put them to shame, because the Most High hath despised them. Oh, that the salvation of Israel will come out of Zion. What's the salvation of Israel? Yahushua. Okay. It says, when the Most High bringeth back the captivity of his people, which means bring us out the curses, give us salvation. Jacob shall rejoice and Israel shall be glad. And that's going to be all Israel who are of the elect, which means those of the circumcision and of the uncircumcision, going right full circle back to the ministry. But speaking on that vine, though, and we always mention this. What was it? Oh yeah, Ezekiel 17. Let me go down to just get 22. We'll get what's at the end. Ezekiel 17:22. It says, thus saith the Lord Yahweh, I will also take off the highest branch of the high cedar and will set it. Okay, right now, Babylon the Great, through the Edomites, are the highest in the earth, supposedly, allegedly. Okay, they have the power seat at least, but they're the bases of men. It says, and I will set it, and will set it. I will crop off from the top of his young twigs a tender one, and will plant it upon an high mountain and eminent. That mountain is talking about the kingdom of heaven, which will come through Yahushua, which is why it is mentioned in Daniel chapter 2, the stone that smote the foot of the statue. It became a great mountain. Okay? So it says, in the mountain of the height of Israel will I plant it, which is back home in our lands, like it says, and I believe it's in Zechariah, Jerusalem shall inhabit Jerusalem. Why is it saying Jerusalem shall inhabit Jerusalem? That makes no sense. No, it makes perfect sense to those that have the understanding. Jerusalem is a people before it's a place. So that true Jerusalem, which will be the elect, beginning with the 144,000 men, will be planted back in the place Jerusalem that will be cleansed and wiped out from the heathens and the filth and everything over there. And we will use the Edomites to rebuild the cities and the waste towns and everything else. In the mountain of the height of Israel, which is the kingdom of heaven, all right, being established, will I plant it, and it shall bring forth boughs and bear fruit. In other words, like he told us in the beginning, to be fruitful and multiply. And this time we will be perfect and immortal, and be a goodly cedar, the best of the trees. As we go into the precept in Mark chapter 8, I saw many trees walking. I think we read Ezekiel 31 the other day, also dealing with the similarity of men being trees. It says, and under it shall dwell all fowl of every wing, meaning all the other nations, the heathen nations. In the shadow of the branches thereof shall they dwell, because Yahushua will have full rulership in the earth. All things were made for him and by him, and of him all things consist. This is his kingdom and his rulership, and he will set up an order, which are 144,000 men, and then there will be other men, women, and children of lesser status, but still great, okay, amongst the nation of Israel, just not to the level of that particular order. And all the other nations will be under us. Okay? And all the trees of the field shall know that I, Yahweh, have brought down the high tree. And in these times, what's the high tree? Babylon the Great, the Edomites. Stemming back to the banking families. They're the high tree in the earth right now. Same thing like Daniel talking about with Nebuchadnezzar. The tree he saw, but it was cut down, but the stump was left. Okay, that's exactly what's going to happen in these times, because the stump that's going to be left from Babylon the Great are those banking families that are going to run into their bunkers. Like it says in Psalms 149, to bind their kings with chains and their nobles with fetters of iron. They're going to be the stump that's left. You see? It says, and all the trees of the field shall know that I, Yahweh, have brought down the high tree, have exalted the low tree. Let's get the word exalted. What does exalted mean? Because that's important dealing with the low tree. All right, Gabah is the word there. It says to be high, be exalted. Okay, look, to be lofty of Yahweh's ways, good sense. Okay, to make high, exalt. And what's the low tree? The low tree of the Israelites. You see, tells you in Deuteronomy 28 that he shall bring us down very low, and the enemies shall come up above us very high. And who is our greatest enemy? The Edomites. Genesis the 25th chapter. 2 nations, 2 manner of people shall be in the womb. From the beginning, straight up enemies. Sworn enemies. Before the boys were born, sworn enemies. And who's the high tree now in these days? It's the Edomites. And who's the low tree? It's the Israelites. I have exalted the low tree, have dried up the green tree, all right, Babylon the Great. Going back to the Edomites, all right, the Idumeans, and have made the dry tree to flourish. Who's the dry tree? The Israelites. The valley of dry bones, like it talks about in Ezekiel chapter 37. We'll get a couple over there. Why not? It says, I, Yahweh, have spoken and have done it. He's talking in past tense. The kingdom of heaven is not, salvation is not come yet. He's talking in past tense, man. This is how powerful and how mighty and how true the words of the Most High are. This is written down in past tense, and it has not happened yet because the victory is already written. So let's just get a couple. We'll throw extra ones in there since we mentioned it in Ezekiel 37. All right, the dry tree. We're that dry tree that needs nourishment, man. What should we get? Let me get the where it goes into the vision explained. So it says, I start at verse 12. Therefore prophesy and say unto them, thus saith the Lord Yahweh, behold, O my people, I will open your graves, which is you being those dead bodies, like it talks about in Revelation. It's not talking about actual dead people. These are talking about Israelites who are alive but are still disconnected from their Heavenly Father because they're still following the ways of Babylon the Great or the world or, false gods and idols or whatever the case may be, and you haven't returned to the Most High power. It says, I will open your graves and cause you to come up out of your graves, and you're out of that dead state, right? Quicken your spirits and bring you into the land of Israel. And ye shall know, and this is the elect, really, this is the elect because the 2/3 will perish. So the elect are the only ones whose graves are going to be open, whose spirits are going to be quickened so that they can walk the necessary path. So at the end of that path, they receive salvation and be ushered into the land by Yahushua himself. Revelation 21, coming back down from heaven. It says, and ye shall know that I am Yahweh when I have opened your graves, O my people, and brought you up out of your graves, and shall put my spirit in you, and ye shall live, you see, and I shall place you in your own land. Then shall ye know that I, Yahweh, have spoken it and performed it, said Yahweh. Is this not the same thing that we just read in chapter 17, but said a different way? Then you shall know. Right? I'm the one who brought down the high tree and exalted the low tree. It's the same thing, man. It's the same thing. It's just worded in a different way. Okay? So let's go over here and just keep it moving. Jeremiah chapter 11, verse 6. Then Yahweh said unto me, proclaim all these words in the cities of Judah and in the streets of Jerusalem, saying, hear ye the words of this covenant, and do them. Who entered into the covenant? The Israelites. A blood covenant at that. For I earnestly protested unto your fathers in the day that I brought them up out of the land of Egypt. There's a solidification right there, if that's a word. Even unto this day, rising early and protesting, saying, obey my voice. Yet they obeyed not, nor inclined their ear, but walked every one in the imagination of their evil heart, their evil minds, which is what we mentioned, how they mumble, grumble, and complain. Therefore, I will bring upon them all the words of this covenant, which I commanded them to do, but they did them not. And we said that we would do them and entered into a blood covenant. And that's why the curses fell upon us, because we broke the covenant. And Yahweh said, unto me, a conspiracy is found. It says, among the men of Judah and among the inhabitants of Jerusalem. They are turned back to the iniquities of their forefathers, which refused to hear my words, and they went after other gods. You see the same narrative here? To serve them. And this lines up with Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter, I believe it's like verse 64, where it says that I will make you serve other gods in foreign nations. Okay? Which you nor your fathers have known, even with a stone. The house of Israel and the house of Judah have broken my covenant, which I made with their fathers. You see? The covenant is the covenant is specific to the nation of Israel, whether it be the old covenant or the new covenant. It is specific to the nation of Israel, which includes the Gentile Israelites. Therefore, thus saith Yahweh, behold, I will bring evil upon them, which they shall not be able to escape. And though they shall cry unto me, I will not hearken unto them. That's when the Lord turned his back, right? Then shall the cities of Judah and inhabitants of Jerusalem go and cry unto the gods unto whom they offer incense, but they shall not save them at all in the time of their trouble. Joshua chapter 10, right? Judges 10. Okay, go and cry to the gods that ye have chosen. Matter of fact, I'm just curious if that's actual precept there. Yep, you see, Judges 10 and 14, you see? Because this is the exact same thing being said here. Here it is, Judges 10 and 14. Go and cry unto the gods which ye have chosen. Let them deliver you in the time of your tribulation. And they went on, they started crying. Lord, just do whatever you will to us. Okay, we deserve it. Just save us. No, it's not going to work in Jacob's trouble, man. If you're not seeking the Lord now. Unless you're of the elect, because you may be jolted into the right spirit at a later date. But those 2/3, they got no hope. Even if they call on Yahweh Bashem Yahushua, there's going to be no hope for them because it was too late for them. That's just their lot. So it says, verse 13 says, for according to the number of the cities were thy gods, O Judah. You see, it keeps popping up the same narrative over and over and over. Many sins, but the main thing being what? The idol worship. See? So verse 13 says, for according to the number of thy cities were thy gods, O Judah, and according to the number of the streets of Jerusalem have ye set up altars to that shameful thing, even altars to burn incense unto Baal. And the modern day altars are what? The churches. That's why you see them on every corner. They're just not hiding amongst the trees anymore. Therefore pray not thou for this people, neither lift up cry or prayer for them, for I will not hear them in the time that they cry unto me for their trouble, as we just read in Judges and above. What hath my beloved to do in mine house, seeing she hath wrought lewdness? You see, he put the wife, the whore, out of his house, but it was not permanent. That's what Hosea goes into. How the Lord was going to have mercy upon us and give this treacherous wife a chance to come back to his side, man. What hath my beloved to do in mine house, seeing she hath wrought lewdness with many, and the holy flesh is passed from thee? When thou doest evil, then thou rejoices, which is straight wicked, man. Yahweh call thy name a green olive tree. You see? Let's get green, man. What's that word there? Ra'ainan. Okay, it says to be or grow luxuriant or fresh or green. You see? The same thing we just talked about in Ezekiel chapter 17, as we threw that in there. The spreading vine of low stature. It says a vegetation rich and profuse in growth, lush. All right. And that's how he says he's going to do us. He's likening us to plants, man. How he's going to cause us to flourish in the kingdom of heaven when the time comes. Because right now we're still that spreading vine of low stature that is dried up. You see? The low tree. For Yahweh of hosts that planted thee hath pronounced evil against thee, for the evil of the house of Israel and of the house of Judah, which they have done against themselves to provoke me to anger in offering incense unto Baal. You see? So let me go over here to this as we continue the story. Romans chapter 11 and go back. And what we're going to do is go back down to verse 7 and read some more. As a matter of fact, I want to read this I'll read this in the NLT. I'll read it first in the KJV. We'll come back to the NLT. So it says, what then? Israel have not obtained that which he seeketh for, but the election hath obtained it, and the rest were blinded. According as it is written, the Most High hath given them the spirit of slumber, eyes that they should not see, and ears that they should not hear, unto this day, which is the 2/3 who are not going to get it, regardless of what you show them. There's 2/3 that even believe certain things, but they never accept it. So they're still casting it away as non-believers. And David said, let their table be made a snare and a trap and a stumbling block and a recompense unto them. Let their eyes be darkened that they may not see, and bow down their back always. I believe that's in Psalm 69, around verse 9 or so, if I'm correct, 6 or 9, something like that, 69, like around through 6 or 9, somewhere around there, if that's the correct chapter. It says, I say then, have they stumbled that they should fall? God forbid. but rather through their fall, salvation is come unto the Gentiles for to provoke them to jealousy, which that goes into the history in Acts chapter 13. But you know what? I said I was going to read this in the NLT. So let's get through this first in the KJV. We'll read the NLT, then we'll go get Acts chapter 13, because those words are what come out in Acts chapter 13, which was what? Before the book of Romans, all right? Or at least in the Bible, because as far as time periods, we probably have to go and look up the time periods. But if I'm correct, Acts came before the book of Romans. And I'm not just talking about in the Bible. I'm talking about time period wise. It says, so that rather their fall salvation is come unto the Gentiles, other Israelites, for to provoke them, the Jews of Judea, of the circumcision, to jealousy. Now if the fall of them be the riches of the world, notice what the word world here is, G2089. All right. Matter of fact, in case there's someone new, never seen it. Cosmos. It says what? An apt and harmonious arrangement or constitution, order, government. And when you go down to the bottom, it also mentions what? The Gentiles as contrasted to the Jews. Okay. These were all, it's showing you a separation of Israelites versus the natural Gentiles. Cosmos always comes up in certain scriptures. I'm sorry, when cosmos comes up in certain scriptures, is dealing with the Israelites. Like the main one being John 3:16. The Lord did not love all the world, meaning every nation. He only loved the Israelites, man. That's what John 3:16 means. That was a great mystery behind John 3:16, which is why these churches have now moved to Gentiles. John 3:16 has been shoved so much in their face, all right? It's coming out the back of their brains. They can't do anything about it. And they're still getting destroyed in Gentiles because there's more things they can try to nitpick through with dealing with Gentiles. But the true understanding is going to be one understanding. And that's what's always going to come out. And it's going to confound them every time. Now, if the fall of them be the riches of the world and the diminishing of them the riches of the Gentiles, how much more their fullness? You see, the diminishing of them, that jealousy that we read about, provoking them to jealousy. When they see that the Gentiles, who were other Israelites, and they knew that back then, they knew they were the Israelites, but they were calling them Gentiles because of the history there, okay? And then they see these Gentiles, as they call them, being called into the faith, and they're like, hold on now, wait a minute. I'm being left behind here, okay? I'm being left out this thing. Wait a minute. I got to jump into another gear. See? Let's read it again. Now, if the fall of them be the riches of the world, and the diminishing of them the riches of the Gentiles, how much more their fullness? For I speak to you Gentiles, inasmuch as I am the apostle of the Gentiles, I magnify mine office. If by any means I may provoke to emulation them which are my flesh, and might save some of them, for if the casting away of them be the reconciling, right, of the world, right? Notice those two words together. Reconciling world. What's the world? The Israelites. What's the reconciling? To be made friends again with the Most High, which was originally through us being chosen as his people. What shall the receiving of them be but life from the dead? Which this word is what quickens your spirit on this side of life, because we will be immortal at one point, but on this side, it is the spirit that quickeneth. For if the first fruit be holy, which is Yahushua, the lump is also holy, which are the church, the true church of Yahushua. And if the root be holy, Yahushua, so are the branches, which are us. That olive tree that was grafted back in, wild olive tree, the oleaster that was grafted back in, through our faith in Yahushua, by way of this ministry, the ministry of reconciliation. And if some of the branches be broken off, and thou being here it is again, wild olive tree, wert grafted in among them, and with them partakers of the root and fatness of the olive tree, boast not against the branches, meaning those Gentiles being called in. Don't boast yourself against those of the circumcision. Why is that? But if thou boast, thou bearest not the root, but the root thee, because you actually fell away from the ways, from the covenant. And your history was taught, basically going back to the history, I should say, those that forsook the Holy Covenant. They are the descendants of those that were not taught the ways, taught the laws and commandments and the customs of our people. So you were just totally doing wrong amongst these heathen nations. So you can't boast yourselves as if, you know, you're better than the circumcision, because the circumcision at least has some of it right. But their problem was they were supposed to be a light to the Gentiles, man. And they didn't accept the Gentiles because all they could do was bring forth the carnal side, which was the history between the two. Going back centered around what? The covenant. It says, thou bearest not the root, but the root thee. Thou wilt say then, the branches were broken off that I might be grafted in. And that's wrong. That's totally upside down. Well, because of unbelief they were broken off, you see, and thou standest by faith. Be not high-minded, but fear. For if the Most High spare not the natural branches, take heed lest he also spare not thee. As a matter of fact, let's go and interject here. I was going to wait. I'm just going to get that Acts chapter 13 real quick to show you this history here, and we'll come back and read that in the NLT, just in case it was not simplified enough. So for you, maybe a new listener, a new believer, or whatever. Okay. Because you got to understand all the history there, okay? Well, the Gentiles in the New Testament were other Israelites, not heathen nations, man. The Lord is only dealing with one nation of people. That's the Israelites. He's not coming to save the whole entire world, every nation, man. And that's the problem, that people don't believe that because they don't have the understanding. And the churches have lied to them, okay? The church is going to get a lot of people killed because they think Jesus is coming to love everybody. And Jesus ain't the Savior, and God does not love everybody. It is only for the remnant of the nation of Israel. Okay, let's get on down to, let's start at 40. Let's just start at 41. Acts 13 and 41. Behold, ye despisers, and wonder and perish, for I work a work in your days, a work which ye shall not in no wise believe, though a man declare it unto you. Yeah, the calling of all the Lord's hopeful elect remnant, which some of those individuals to be called in are going to look like the actual heathen nations, man, but they're not. They're Israelites. It says, and their faith will show that. And when the Jews were going out of the synagogue, the Gentiles, you see, Israelites and Israelites, besought that these words might be preached to them the next Sabbath day. Now, when the congregation was broken up, meaning of the Jews and religious proselytes followed Paul and Barnabas, who, speaking to them, persuaded them to continue in the grace of the Most High. You got to remember, these are the Gentiles here that are accepting the word. It says, in the next Sabbath day came almost the whole city together to hear the word of the Most High. But when the Jews, the circumcision, saw the multitudes, the uncircumcision, they were filled with envy, which, well, of course, was also probably circumcision mixed in with those, because this was all those of faith. That's what mattered. Those that were of faith, which are the remnant. And that remnant is back here on the earth today to receive that salvation that was promised them way back then through the Savior. But when the Jews saw the multitudes, they were filled with envy and spake against those things which were spoken by Paul, contradicting and blaspheming. That's the key. Contradicting and blaspheming. Then Paul and Barnabas waxed bold and said, it was necessary. Here's the key. The point, it was necessary that the word of the Most High should first have been spoken to you, which was the ministry that began with John the Baptist, who prepared the way for Yahushua to come. And when Yahushua actually popped up on the scene, they did not believe, especially those wicked scribes and Pharisees and, that whole council, the Sanhedrin. See? And there were Israelites that were under them because they were set up over the Israelites, who also trusted in these wicked Pharisees more than they trusted the ministry and the truth, what the Bible actually says. You see? Which at this point was the Old Testament, because that's all they had. They were living the New Testament before it was written. So all they had was the Old Testament, but that means they understood the prophecies of Yahushua. And when he came, because they were following the wrong leaders, they didn't believe in the Savior. They lacked the faith, man. That was the key thing. It says, it was necessary that the word of the Most High should first have been spoken to you, but seeing ye put it from you and judge yourselves unworthy. How was that? By lacking that faith there, as we just read, contradicting, blaspheming, not believing that Yahushua was the Lord and Savior. That was just the carpenter's son. You judge yourselves unworthy of everlasting life. Lo, we turn to the Gentiles, which are other Israelites. And as I always mention, man, because when you go to, Ephesians chapter 3, okay, where it mentions the Gentiles being joint heirs, Who are the ones that are going to be joint? Because it says the same thing in Romans chapter 8. Who are the ones that are going to be joint heirs? Those are men. All men. So if you go to Revelation chapter 7 and 4, it tells you who those men are going to be. 144,000 men who are all of the 12 tribes of Israel if you read all the way through chapter 8. So we know these are not heathens, man. The Gentiles that will be crowned as joint heirs, as kings with crowns, are men of Israel. 144,000 men of Israel, which are the order, the governing body, man. You see? So it says, for so hath the Lord commanded us, saying, I have set thee to be a light of the Gentiles, that thou shouldest be for salvation unto the ends of the earth. All right, that was Paul's ministry, and those Jews of Judea of the circumcision were supposed to be a light to those uncircumcision, to the so-called Gentile Israelites. You see, and when the Gentiles heard this, they were glad and glorified the word of the Lord, and as many as were ordained to eternal life believed. Yeah, because the circumcision were pushing them away so heavily. A lot of tension there. As we always mention, the Greek-speaking Jews and the Hebrew-speaking Jews, when you're going about talking about the distribution of the food, you see, amongst those women, there was an intense hatred there. But Paul came and taught them the gospel and what it truly says, all right, and what the mission was, and so they were happy to hear that. Yeah, we do have hope and salvation through Mashiach Yahushua, because those circumcision told us otherwise. You see. Understanding that history gives you all the little understand the context clues and all those little things, the little tidbit points that you need to understand. It says, and the word of Yahweh of the Lord was published throughout all the region. And then it goes on to talk about, the persecution and things of that nature, because that's the end of the chapter. But the Jews stirred up the devout and honorable women and the chief men of the city and raised persecution against Paul and Barnabas and expelled them out of their coast. You see, they couldn't accept it. They couldn't accept it. But it says what? That it was written, right, that I had to come to you first. You see? So let's bounce back over here, because I didn't forget this. Okay, Romans 11 and 7. And I'll get the NLT for you. So it says, so this is the situation. Most of the people of Israel have not found the favor of the Most High they are looking for so earnestly. A few have, the ones the Most High has chosen, but the hearts of the rest were hardened. Now, those are the elect, all right, that it's meant for. As the scriptures say, the Most High has put them into a deep sleep. To this day, he has shut their eyes, so they do not see, and closed their ears, so they do not hear. Likewise, David said, let their bountiful table become a snare, a trap that makes them think all is well. Like it says in 1 Thessalonians 5 and 3, when he shall say peace and safety. They think all is well, fall in the ways of the world, fall in wickedness, right? Let their blessing cause them to stumble, and let them get what they deserve. Heavy. Let their eyes go blind so they cannot see, and let their backs be bent forever. Did the Most High's people stumble and fall beyond recovery? Of course not. And it wasn't through supersessionism or replacement theology. Of course not. They were disobedient, which we read in all those other scriptures. So the Most High made salvation available to the Gentiles, which were other Israelites. But he wanted with that. That was the following. I will provoke you to anger with the foolish nation, of people that were not my people. But he wanted his own people to become jealous and claim it for themselves. You see? Now, if the Gentiles were enriched because the people of Israel turned down the Most High's offer of salvation, think how much greater a blessing the world will share when they finally accept it. And we already clarified who the world is. Those are Israelites, because the word comes up as cosmos. I am saying all this especially for you Gentiles. God the highest has appointed me as the apostle to the Gentiles. I stress this, for I want somehow to make the people of Israel jealous of what you Gentiles have, so I might have some of them. You see, that's so important. For I want somehow to make the people of Israel jealous of what you other you Gentiles have, so I might have some of them. Might save some of them. Meaning that jealousy is gonna rile up and cause some to be stoop down in their anger, but that jealousy is going to rouse some to well up and say, wait a minute, I need to come to this ministry and accept these things. And those are the faithful believers, the remnant are the only ones who are going to change their mind in their ways, man. The 2/3 are going to continue to reject, just like we have in modern day times, in real time. It says, for since their rejection meant that the Most High offers salvation to the rest of the world, their acceptance will be even more wonderful. It will be life for those who were dead, because we're all going to be, we're all going to be happy that we're all the remnant. Doesn't matter if you was of the circumcision or uncircumcision. We all believe in Yahushua. We all coming together as one, you see? It says, and since Abraham and the other patriarchs were holy, their descendants will also be holy, just as the entire batch of dough is holy, because the portion given as an offering is holy. For if the roots of the tree are holy, the branches will be too. And it goes to show you that this is a family lineage. That's why it mentions who it mentions. Okay? Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, then to the 12 sons, which made up the 12 tribes of Israel, which are who? Today known as the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. It has nothing to do with the other nations, man. This is a family thing here. That's who salvation is for. The Israelites only, man. And the Lord himself actually told us that. Okay? So it says, but some of these branches from Abraham's tree, some of the people of Israel, have been broken off. You see? But some of these branches from Abraham's tree, some of the people of Israel, have been broken off. That was the grafting in that we spoke about. And you Gentiles, who were branches from a wild olive tree, have been grafted in. So now you also receive the blessing the Most High has promised Abraham and his children, which are who? When you go back to that history, it talks about the seed of the covenant, because we know Abraham had more than one sons, okay? And the main one that's mentioned is Ishmael. But we know it passed over Ishmael in Genesis chapter 17, and it went to Isaac. From Isaac, there were twin sons, Jacob and Esau. It passed over Esau and went to Jacob. And from Jacob, the story is over, man, because there's nowhere else to go. There's nothing else to talk about. Say less, okay? It says, so now you also receive the blessing the Most High has promised Abraham and his children, sharing in the rich nourishment from the root of the Most High's special olive tree, which are the elect of the nation of Israel. Those are the ones who are going to receive salvation. Okay, which all Israelites will be in the kingdom. But on this side, it's those remnants. And that's also what we mentioned before in Ephesians chapter 3. When you go in there, it started like verse 3. Read now maybe like 7 or 8, maybe so. But you must not brag about being grafted in to replace the branches that were broken off. You are just a branch, not the root. Okay? Because of what you grew up learning and your customs and what you were doing. At least of the circumcision, though they judged themselves unworthy, at least they were keeping the law and the customs and so on and so forth. And they were supposed to be a light to you Gentiles, but they judged themselves unworthy. Verse 19 says, well, you may say those branches were broken off to make room for me. Yes, but remember, those branches were broken off because they didn't believe in the Messiah, you see? And you are there because you do believe. So don't think highly of yourself. And that goes back into that history we just read there in Acts the 13th chapter. So don't think highly of yourself, but fear what could happen, which is you being cut off, just like, because that's what it says. All right. If he spared not the natural branches, then what more you? Okay. So that's why they're not to boast themselves. For if the Most High did not, here it is right here, spare the original branches, he won't spare you either. Beautiful, man. You can't make it up, man. So let me jump back to KJV. I'm going to go over here to Romans chapter 10. I'm about to close it up and wrap it up, right? Okay, let me get verse 12. It says, for there is no difference between the Jew and the Greek. All right, so now we have a clear understanding what it means when you read something like this, Jew and Greek. They were both Israelites. For the same Lord over all is rich unto all that call upon him. Who's the ones that call upon the Lord? The Israelites, man. The other nations are not calling. They're calling on their false gods and idols. Okay? They're calling on everything else, all right? Except but for Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai. And Israelites, and there are Israelites that follow that as well. It says, for whosoever shall call upon the name of the Lord shall be saved. And I believe if you go to Acts chapter 2, it says the same thing. Whosoever shall call on the name of the Lord. Then it goes on to say, ye men of Israel. It gets very specific all the time, man. It says, how then shall they call? And they say, okay, Hebrew hopscotch and all that stuff like that, cherry picking. No, it's those anti-Messiah that do that, okay? The anti-Christians that do that. They try to take different things from here, and there. They do the ABCDEFG thing that I like to say. The all people, all men, all this, everybody or whatever, okay, and take it as make it universal when that's not what it means, man. You got to go delve into a deeper understanding to get what it truly means, because it's not universal. It's specific, and it's talking about Israelites. So it says, how then shall they call on him in whom they have not believed? Yahushua. And how shall they believe in him whom they have not heard? Through the prophets. And how shall they hear without a preacher? And those are the prophets. You see? You really can go into that backwards. Okay? How shall they hear without a preacher? They can't. They need prophets. How shall they believe in him whom they have not heard? The prophets are going to tell them. How then shall they call on him in whom they have not believed? Because the prophets told them. Some believe, some don't. You get it? Verse 15 says, and how shall they preach except they be sent? Who are the ones sent? The prophets. As it is written, how beautiful are the feet of them that preach the gospel of peace and bring glad tidings of good things. That's the Isaiah 52:7, one of my favorite scriptures. But they have not all obeyed the gospel, for Isaiah said, Lord, who hath believed our report? That's the Isaiah. Also, it might be at the top of that chapter. All right. Who have believed our report, who to whom of the arm of the Lord had been revealed? So then faith cometh by hearing, and hearing by the word of the Most High. And who teaches? The prophets. You see? And we're going to teach you what the truth is, that we're not bent on skin color, okay? But it is about nationality. All right? This is a family thing. It is a family thing, okay? This is family business. All right? These are family matters because family matters. Your lineage matters, man. That nationality. Okay? And we just read this. But I say, have they not heard? Yes, verily, their sound went into all the earth, and all their words unto the ends of the world, because Israelites are scattered. So we have to preach to all the world to wake up the elect in amongst all the nations. But I say, did not Israel know? First Moses said, I will provoke you to jealousy by them that are no people, and by a foolish nation I will anger you. Moses said it. Hosea quoted it. And now here it is being quoted again in the New Testament. 2 in the old, 1 in the new. But Esaias is very bold and saith, I was found of them that sought me not. I was made manifest unto them that asked not after me. But to Israel, he said, all day long I have stretched forth my hands unto a disobedient and gainsaying people. You notice how it wraps it up? Letting you know this was all Israel the whole time, man. And it has always been, and it will always be. So as we go and close it off here, when you go back to Romans 11:1, it says what? I say then, had the Most High cast away his people, the Israelites? Most High forbid. For I also am an Israelite of the seed of Abraham, of the tribe of Benjamin. The Most High hath not cast away his people, which he foreknew, right? Foreknew his people, which he foreknew. Would ye not what the scripture said of Elias, how he maketh intercession to the Most High against Israel, saying, they have killed thy prophets and digged down thine altars, and I am left alone, and they seek my life. And that's more history there. But what saith the answer of the Most High unto him? I have reserved to myself 7,000 men who have not bowed the knee to the image of Baal. Do you see how in the New Testament, men constantly pull from the Old Testament, because those are the scriptures that they had back then. We now have it all, from the Old to the New, and the Apocrypha as well. It says, even so then, at the present time also there is a remnant, you see, according to the election of grace. The remnant, those are the faithful believers, whether you were of the circumcision or the uncircumcision. It was all about your faith in the Messiah, Yahushua HaMashiach. And if by grace, then is it no more of works? Otherwise, grace is no more grace. But if it be of works, then is it no more grace? Otherwise, work is no more work. Okay, let me read this in NLT for you. Verse 5 again says, it is the same today, for a few of the people of Israel have remained faithful because of the Most High's grace, his undeserved kindness in choosing them. And since it is through the Most High's kindness then it is not by their good works, you see. For in that cause, the Most High's grace would not be what it really is, free and undeserved. And yeah, we may put in work, but what does that mean? That we're showing our faith and our trust in the Most High and our reverence for Him and His ways and seeking Him, seeking the power. But at the end of the day, we're still just unprofitable servants because this is what we're supposed to do. And we're in that verse 7. So this is the situation. Most of the people of Israel have not found the favor of the Most High. They are looking for it so earnestly. A few have, the ones the Most High has chosen, which are the remnant, but the hearts of the rest were hardened. See? So it has always been about the salvation of Israel, which will be through the elect. So we're not even going to prolong it anymore. No need to force it. Lord willing, you will edify. To next time, Yashrala, going to say Shalom.